Hey guys, Barrett here. Welcome back to another video. Today, I'm doing a redo or a remake of a video I made probably about a year ago now about the top 10 most common beginner mistakes in pickleball. I did this video a year ago, but I really didn't include much footage for some reason, so this is the remake of that video. Before we begin, keep in mind that, look, I've made all of the mistakes on this list, and it's really important to understand that when you're making these mistakes, trying to get too down on yourself. It's okay, it's fine. This video is really gonna help you understand these mistakes, and it's gonna help you understand what to do about them. So when you do make these mistakes out on the court, don't get down on yourself. Just remember that technique, and then promise yourself that you're gonna change something on the next try. So just keep that in mind as we go here. All right, let's get started with the first one. Okay, so number one here, one of the most common mistakes I see amongst beginners is that after they serve, they'll sort of scoot up a little bit, okay? So let me show you kind of what that looks like. And they'll do something like that where they'll scoot up. The problem with that is that in pickleball, especially as you get more advanced, the return server is gonna try to hit as deep as they can. The reason why they wanna hit as deep as they can is because they wanna make your third shot as difficult as possible, okay? So I understand that sometimes people will like to hit the ball short on their return, and that's why a lot of people will sort of scoot up like this when they hit their serve. But really, you want to stay back on these serves, okay? So when I'm about to serve, hit the ball, and now I'm going to stay back and get ready for that return, okay? So keep that in mind as you're serving. Try not to scoot up too much, because if you scoot up a little bit too much and that ball lands behind you on the baseline, which would be a really good return, you are toast, and that is no good for you. Okay, let's move on to number two. Okay, number two, getting too fancy with spin. Now, since you're a beginner, one thing that's really important to understand about pickleball is that spin is really important once you get up into the more advanced levels, like topspin, for example. However, when you're a beginner, we really want to focus on the proper technique and really getting the ball over and all that sort of stuff. Getting too fancy with spin can get you into trouble. So one thing I see a lot is when people are hitting the ball, either at the net or wherever, they'll try to do, this kind of fancy stuff where they'll try to spin it like this or whatever. Like they'll try to cut it and stuff like that, okay? Or they'll try to do something where they'll do like that, those kinds of things. That's what I call getting too fancy with spin. The thing about it is that you'll know that you're getting too fancy with spin when you're trying to hit these spin shots and it's just not working. You have to sort of gauge your shots, and if your shots aren't working and you're not consistent with them, it's important just to put that on the shelf. Doesn't mean you have to abandon it. Just put that spin shot on the shelf and then come back to it later. Okay, so if I'm trying to do these fancy spin shots, I can instead just kind of push the ball over instead, just to get it over. As a beginner, you really want to focus on having the longest rallies possible, because those long rallies are going to give you the practice that's necessary to get better. Whereas if you're using the spin shots and you're losing the rallies too early, you're not getting the kind of practice that you need. Okay, so that's spin. Okay, another really common mistake that I see beginners make is smashing balls too early or smashing balls that are just way too low. Okay, so let me just show you what it looks like. Okay, so here I am dinking at the net or what have you, and I'm getting really impatient. And then one pops up and I try to kind of lean into the kitchen to try to smash the ball. Let me show you. So I'm sitting here hitting the ball like this. I see that a lot, okay? I have a little mantra. Hopefully this helps. I say, live to dink another day, which just means live to fight another day. If the ball is too short or it's too low or what have you, just let it bounce and just softly hit the ball back over. You're gonna thank yourself later, okay? Now, one quick little technique thing is, it's very common with the smashing to see something like this, where you'll kind of wrist it straight down. Let me point the angle at you here, like this, okay? Well, look at this wrist action. Look where it's going. It's going straight down, right? That's why people hit the net all the time. Instead, kind of want to push the paddle like this. See how the paddle's facing this way? not this way, that's really gonna help with those smashes. So she hits a little too high, then instead I can kind of go like this instead, or my paddle is like that, okay? So if you can't hit that smash, just let it bounce, stay calm, stay patient, live to dink another day. Okay, number 4, kitchen faults. Very, very common mistake to see beginners make, and understandably, you know, the kitchen isn't really the easiest thing to understand. I look at it like this. I look at it as a past, present, and future kind of thing, okay? So you can't have been, you can't be, and you can't will soon be in the kitchen when you are initiating a volley. And that's the full stroke, okay? So for example, you can't have been in the kitchen and come up and volley it. You can't be in the kitchen and volley it. And you can't be in the kitchen in the future and have volleyed it. It's a past, present, future. In other words, the rules state that they do not want you in the kitchen and volleying the ball. It's what makes this game work. Okay, so look at it as a past, present, and future kind of thing. To help yourself not fall into the kitchen when you're making these shots, it's important to use your glutes to squat. That's gonna give you a nice balanced sort of foundation here. Oftentimes I see people kind of leaning over like this. That's just gonna make you fall into the kitchen. Instead, try to squat to get those volleys like this. You see how that works? That's gonna get you a nice foundation, and you're gonna have a lot more balance at the kitchen. I just wanna clarify one thing about the have been in the kitchen. So if I'm here and a ball comes up, if I start to make my swing and I volley that ball, it doesn't matter if I've stepped out or not, that's a fault. In order for it to not be a fault, I have to instead come out of the kitchen completely, reset my stance, and then swing. If I begin to initiate that volley, that's the beginning of it, okay? So again, if it comes up, you gotta set your stance and then hit the ball. It's a complete reset before you hit it. All right, let's talk about the serve real quick. This is number 5, is sort of bad serving technique. Very common thing I see in beginners is when they swing through the ball on their serve. Let me scoot up a little bit. They'll swing through and they'll kind of flip their hand over like this, okay? Now, if you can make that work and it's accurate, then all right, not a big deal. However, what I see oftentimes is that people will miss the ball going to their left if they're right-handed, and to the right if they are left-handed, okay? So let me show you. They'll kind of come in like this, and then they'll flip their hand over. And the problem with that, again, is that you're gonna miss them to the left sometimes, but also you're not gonna get that great of contact. So instead, when you're coming through the ball, when you hit it, okay, try to sort of feel like you're gonna be flipping the pancake over your shoulder. This is how I teach it in my lessons, okay? So you've got the pancake, you hit it, and then you flip it over your shoulder. Okay, let me do that in slow motion. Sort of like that, okay? Watch. It's gonna give you that nice, solid contact feeling when you do it. Okay, let me speed it up. Okay? You can really get a lot of power on this too. Okay, did you hear that sound? It's a beautiful sound, I love it. I could do that all day. So try not to flip your paddle over like this. Instead, try to flip it up like that. It'll help. Okay, number 6, not taking centerline shots as the forehand player. So if you're a complete beginner and you're new to racket sports, the forehand is what you're dominant with. Okay, so my dominant hand is my right hand, so this is my forehand, whereas my backhand crosses over my body like this. That's the backhand, okay? So the thing about the forehand is that the forehand is far more powerful than the backhand because body mechanics, okay? So when those shots are coming right down the middle between Carolyn and I, it's my responsibility as the forehand player to get those shots, okay? So if the ball's coming over here, that's gonna be my shot, okay? That's really important to understand, because oftentimes what will happen, and this will happen on the return serve as well, one person will serve it and the ball will just come down the middle. If you're the forehand player, that's your shot. And look, if you're the person over here, if you're in Carolyn's position, don't go for those shots. Let it go by. That'll teach the forehand player that he better get over there and get that shot. All right, number 7. This will get you some easy points in pickleball, and that is not letting balls go out, okay? So really common mistake I see is people will play sort of instinctively, and the ball will be coming towards their face, their shoulder, or somewhere in this area, and they'll just like this, and they'll just hit it, right? It's really important that if you're at the kitchen line, like Carolyn is right now, to let some of those balls go out. Now, not every single one of them will go out because of different pace or whatever. However, a lot of them will, and it's really important to let those go out. Okay, so let me show you. My back's gonna be towards you. I apologize for that. So if I'm dinking with Carolyn here, and I hit one of these like that, she just lets it go. Typically what we say is shoulder high, let it fly, okay? So if I'm dinking with her, have the discipline, have the control over yourself to let a lot of those shots go out, okay? That actually was in. All right, so if I'm dinking, have the control and the discipline to let some of these balls go out. Notice how they're flying towards Carolyn's head, just like that. And see how she's not swinging at it, she's staying controlled over herself, getting out of the way and letting the ball go out. Again, easy point, right? Easiest points you'll make in pickleball are the ones that just go out. So just try that. When you're out on the courts, just let it go out. Who cares if it's in or out, right? All we're trying to do is practice that discipline. Okay, number 8, not getting to the kitchen. Very common mistake, and I get it. It feels really weird that after you hit the 3rd shot or what have you, it feels very weird running to the kitchen, especially if you were a previous tennis player. However, it's really important to get into this habit. Okay, so let me show you kind of how this works a little bit. So the mistake that I see is she'll hit the ball to me, I'll hit it back over, and then I'll just kind of stand here like this, okay? We really want to get to that kitchen, especially after the return serve and after the 3rd shot, okay? One way to do this easily is, go ahead and feed me one, Carolyn. One way to do this, especially on the 3rd, is to, when you hit it, take a step forward. And when you take that step forward, it'll encourage you to start moving towards the kitchen. Okay, so step forward and start moving towards the kitchen. And look, you don't necessarily have to like run, okay? You can, but just make your way towards the kitchen. So again, I serve, she returns, here's my 3rd. When I do my 3rd, I'm gonna try to get it over and then start getting to the kitchen, okay? Just like this. And that's the whole point of the 3rd, okay? On the return works the same way. So she serves it over, I return the ball, run, and here I am at the kitchen just like that. Okay, so after the return and after the 3rd, really encourage yourself to start moving towards the kitchen. You're gonna get a lot more points that way and a lot more practice. Okay, number 9, this one's actually quite interesting, which is backing off the kitchen line when you don't need to. Okay, now there's this sort of mindset in pickleball. It's a little dogmatic, which basically says never back off the kitchen line. I don't want to say never, because there are reasons to move back off the kitchen line. However, sometimes, most of the times, there's never a need to move back off the kitchen line and then stay there. And that's the big mistake that I see, okay? So I'll be dinking like this, and I'll be dinking over. And if Caroline starts hitting a little bit harder shots at me, I may start backing up like this and get defensive. The problem is with this kind of move is that now my feet are more exposed than they were previously. And also, I'm now hitting shots that I never practiced. The kinds of dinks that I practice are right here, 7 feet away every single time. I don't want to be practicing shots from here, okay? So if there's no need to get off the line, then don't do it. There's no need to do it. And if you do get backed off the line like this, start to make your way back up to the line and really defend that. Again, don't think that you never have to back off the line. I think that's a little bit too extreme. However, if you're backing off the line and you're staying there, that's where the problems come up. Okay, number 10, the last mistake I'm going to talk about today, and that is just plainly hitting the ball too hard. When I say hitting the ball too hard, really what I mean is not understanding pace, okay? So when you get a really hard shot, okay, a really hard shot coming into your paddle, a lot of that pace is going to come back off the paddle. Okay, so when you get, let's just say, for example, I'm back here, okay? That was a great throw. Do you see that? Let's say that I'm back here. Okay, another great throw. And let's say Caroline hits a really hard shot at me, okay? If I try to hit that ball, it's gonna really explode off my paddle. The harder she hits it, the harder it's gonna come off my paddle, okay? So the problem is that if I hit it too hard, that's where you're gonna get those pop-ups, the dreaded pop-ups. So the harder the ball is coming to you, the softer you have to hit the ball, okay? So for example, if she hits one at me, focus on the pace. How fast is that ball moving, okay? I hardly hit that thing and look, it went over, okay? Whereas if she hits me a soft one, hit me a really soft one here, she hits me a really soft one, now I actually have to hit it quite hard to get it back over. What it means to hit the ball too hard is really just understanding how fast the ball is moving, the pace of the shot, okay? The more pace your opponent has, the less pace you need to have. That's how you keep yourself from hitting the ball too hard. Okay guys, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear about your opinions. I know that my last video didn't include a lot of visuals, so I hope that helped. Again, you can go to pickleballkitchen.com for a bunch of stuff. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.